All right, let's dive right in. If you're an emergency medicine doc and you've been thinking about tackling the MRCEM exams, figuring out everything from study plans to the fees, well, you are in exactly the right place. This is your instruction manual.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the exams, let's talk about the big question, right? Why even do this? What's the real payoff? Well, for a lot of doctors, it's about opening up some pretty incredible career doors, especially in a specific part of the world.
And here's the bottom line. Having a UK-based emergency medicine qualification like the MRCEM, it makes you a star candidate in the Gulf. Seriously, hospitals over there actively look for and prefer doctors with this exact training. It can be a massive boost for your career.
Okay, so you know the why, now let's get into the what. The whole MRCEM journey is really broken down into a few stages, and it all starts with two main written exams that, believe me, test very different things.
This chart breaks it down perfectly. You can see both exams have 180 multiple-choice questions, but that's kind of where the similarities end. The focus and the difficulty just ramp way up. The primary is all about your basic sciences, your foundation, and you can probably knock that out with 3 to 4 months of solid study. But the intermediate, that's a whole different beast. It's much more clinical, way more challenging, and you're going to want a budget closer to 6 months for that one.
Let's zoom in on the primary exam. Just look at this breakdown. It is all about building that rock-solid scientific foundation. And anatomy and physiology, they are the absolute heavy hitters here, making up a whopping 120 of the 180 questions. If you can master those two subjects, you are well on your way to passing this exam.
And then you get to the intermediate exam, and this one throws you right into the deep end of the ER. It's all about your clinical skills in a huge range of scenarios. We're talking everything from complex but stable patients to full-on resuscitations and traumas. This is where all your practical, hands-on knowledge really gets put to the test.
Okay, so you know what's coming. The million-dollar question is, how in the world do you prepare for all of this, especially when you're already juggling a crazy residency schedule? Well, it all boils down to having the right resources and sticking to a solid routine.
Your question bank, your Q bank, is probably your single most important study tool. The two big ones out there are MRCEM Success and MRCEM Expert. Personally, I found MRCEM Success was fantastic for building that core knowledge. But using Expert as a supplement is a great idea just to see questions framed in a slightly different way.
Now here is a major pro tip for that tougher intermediate exam. While the Q banks are essential, you've got to bring in the official materials. So many successful candidates absolutely swear by the official FRCEM learning platform. It helps you get that extra edge and really aligns your thinking with what the examiners are looking for.
And here's a killer strategy for that final week of prep. I call it the recall review cycle. First, get your hands on as many recent recall questions as you can find. Then, for that entire last week, do nothing else. Just focus on those questions. And the key is to go through them 3 times. Seriously, it hammers home the patterns and high-yield topics right when it matters most.
I know what you're thinking. When am I supposed to find the time for all this? And that's where discipline becomes everything. A simple, structured schedule like this one can make all the difference. Just 1 hour of QBank practice before your shift and 1 hour of review in the evening, that carves out 2 solid hours of focused study every single day. Trust me, consistency beats cramming every single time.
And hey, if you feel like you might benefit from a more guided approach, remember that structured coaching is always an option. Programs like the ones we offer at Golden Hour and ER are specifically designed to give you that expert advice and framework to really help you maximize every minute of your study time.
All right, you've got your study plan, now we got to talk about the practical stuff. Honestly, managing the logistics, like fees and dates, is just as crucial as managing your revision. So let's break down those final steps.
First up, the money. You're looking at a fee of €609 for international non-members, and that's per exam. So that fee applies to both the primary and the intermediate. You definitely want to make sure you've budgeted for this well ahead of time.
Okay, and this is absolutely critical. You have to track the official exam calendar. These are the key dates for 2026. Knowing these lets you work backwards and build a realistic study timeline. Missing a registration deadline can set you back by months, so do yourself a favor and bookmark that calendar.
And finally, exam day. Look, the nerves are going to be there. That's just part of it. But the single best way to manage that anxiety is to simply trust your preparation. When you sit down in that exam hall, just remember the hundreds of hours you've studied and the thousands of questions you've practiced.
You've put in the work, you've earned this, trust the process.
So there you have it. That's the complete instruction manual for the MRCEM. You know the exam structures, the best resources, the study strategies, and the logistics. You've got the entire blueprint right here. So the only question left is, what's the first step you're going to take?